Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Salamishah Tillet and Willie Cole. Salamishah is the Henry Rutgers Professor of African American Studies and Creative Writing at Rutgers University, Newark, where she also directs the New Arts Justice Initiative, as well as serving as the Director of Express Newark, the Center for Socially Engaged Art and Design. Willie is a highly accomplished and acclaimed artist who's been serving as the artist in residence this year at Express Newark. During the program, we'll learn about the history and mission of Express Newark and how it's grown, developed, and operates today. To better understand and appreciate its overall vision, we'll hear about this year's theme of Aliveness and the 3 exhibitions associated with it. To this end, Willie will share 2 of the tremendous sculptures he's created, as well as his involvement with community members and Rutgers students in a fascinating exhibition entitled Perceptual Engineering. Let's start by meeting Salamishah and Willie and then finding out all about Express Newark. Welcome, so delighted you're both able to be here. You know,
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I truly admire the meaningful, important, and extremely creative endeavors you've both been involved with. Eager to hear more and have you inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, I also think it would be of interest if you'd both briefly share a little bit about your backgrounds and professional artistic interests. Salamishah, would you please begin?
Sure. Well, my background in terms of my biography is that I am a grandchild of Newark. I often say my mother is from Newark and she was an artist and she actually went to high school with Willie. But I've been a professor at Rutgers Newark since 2018. So I came after Express Newark had officially opened. I joined the faculty here after this beautiful space that we have was already welcoming the public into it. But my other background or my scholarly background is I'm a literary and cultural critic. I'm a professor, as you said, of Africana Studies and Creative Writing. And I'm an activist. I use art to do, focus on gender equality and racial equity in the world.
I know we could go on, but I have to mention that last year you were awarded very prestigious Pulitzer Prize for your work on art criticism. So
yes, I guess definitely. I forgot to say I'm a critic for the New York Times as well. So I won the Pulitzer for that work there. Thank you.
Incredible, incredible. Willie, welcome. A little bit, please, about your background and your artistic interests.
Yes, I am also pretty much a lifelong resident of New Jersey, but that New Jersey experience was mostly in Newark. And I went through the Newark art system, meaning that I was mentored by Amiri Baraka, who was the big artist in Newark when I was a teenager. I went to the Newark's Art High School, which is the first high school of the arts in the country. Graduated Sarah Vaughan and a lot of other great people.
Wow.
And I began my artistic career as a graphic designer and an illustrator. I've done children's stories, I've done album covers, book covers. But for the past maybe 40 years, I just worked as a fine artist in the studio. And I use everyday materials, at least they've been called everyday materials. Maybe better to call them common objects. But I combine a single object into one form. So I'm using a minimalist approach to make a maximalist result. And it does involve recycling often. I've actually received recycling awards from my town here. But my primary focus is perceptual engineering, basically proving to myself that everything can be made from anything and anything can be made from everything.
Well, we're going to enjoy some of your work and how you've got that message across and encouraged community members and students to take that approach and what they've been able to accomplish through your guidance as well. But before we get to that, Salamishah, would you please start by sharing a little bit about the history and background, the overall mission of Express Newark, please?
Sure. So Express Newark was opened in 2017 in what was formerly the Haynes department store building. And that building, and Willie can talk about this in terms of his knowledge of the building, and his sister, I think, used to work there at one point. The building itself was a 500,000 square foot space that had been, for the most part, unused, and also in much need of repair and renovation. So in the spirit of adaptive reuse, a number of organizations and entities in the city of Newark, Rutgers Newark, Prudential, Bank of America, and then L&M developers kind of came together and really turned what was an empty, abandoned, and in much need of repair building into a vibrant space. And so it has a Whole Foods, and Marcus Samuelson's restaurant is there. And it's a really like engaging, lively space for the public to come and shop and come together. And in that space then is Express Newark, which is a 50,000 square foot space, 3 levels. And it is supported by Rutgers Newark, but it is a center for socially engaged art and design, in which we invite the community, invite the public to co-create and co-learn and collaborate with Rutgers students and faculty to make art that will make a difference in the world and in Newark itself. So it has a number of really exciting studios. We have a community media center, a film and production studio. We have a community portrait studio, a community press, as well as a 3D printing studio called Form Design. And that's where Willie has been both in the gallery space, the Paul Robeson gallery space, as well as working with our colleague Carrie Rosen in Form Design Studio. So it's a really, immersive space, but it's also a very inviting space for those who are interested in experimenting with a variety of forms of art, but also who really want to understand the way that art has been and continues to be a vehicle of self-expression and social change. So Express Newark is, and it's obvious in its title that it is how we can express ourselves in the city, but also what are the core artistic values and practices in Newark. And Willie Cole it's been wonderful having Willie as a resident, because he exemplifies so much of the creativity and experimentation and the ingenuity of growing up in Newark, but also being a vanguard in contemporary art.
Most definitely, most definitely. No, I know myself, vibrant is the first word that comes to mind once I became exposed to all that it has to offer. Before we move on to find out about this theme for this year, Aliveness,
yes,
a quick word about the initiative you're involved with, just to give a little bit of sense of the overall vision, an opportunity of Express Newark, the New Arts Justice.
Oh yeah, so I'm the director of Express Newark, and then, as I said, we have like a community portrait studio called Shine, a form design, 3D printing studio called Form Design, and then also when I initially came, I was the director of the public arts studio called New Arts Justice. So again, it's just this is kind of the interdisciplinarity and artistic fluidity that exists in the building, but also again, it's for the community and for students to come learn and create together and collaborate with artists like or be exposed to artists like Willie Cole.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Why was Aliveness chosen as this year's theme?
Yeah, well, in literary criticism, there's a really wonderful scholar named Kevin Quashie. He's a professor at Brown University, and he focuses on African-American literature and African-American poetry. And he, in 2021, had a book come out called Black Aliveness, A Poetics of Being. And in that book, he's really thinking about, in this moment in which there is such a deep crisis of Black people dying and Black people being killed by unarmed Black people being killed by police officers or by just random people who for no reason other than the fact that you're Black. He was really interested in thinking about aliveness and looking at Black poetry as maybe a way of not focusing on death as the ultimate way we can understand Black artistic production or Black life, but actually to focus on aliveness. And so we thought that was a really interesting idea. What does aliveness actually mean as a word, as a artistic identity, as a way of thinking about our relationships to each other coming out of the pandemic. So we chose aliveness as our theme, and we have three different kinds of ways that we've activated it this year. So one, we have a film exhibition called Things We Do in the Dark. And that's looking specifically at artistic collaborations and this idea of kinship. So not only looking, all the films that are in our exhibition are made by communities or collectives or couples, and not just one single director. And so in that spirit of how do we imagine our relationships to each other? How do we reconnect to each other? We wanted all the films in the exhibition, and it's done in 2 parts. It's a 6-week rotation. All the films in the exhibition to be made in that spirit of connection and collectivity, aliveness. And then the other 2 activations we have, Willie can speak about much more thoughtfully and intimately than I can. One is Perceptual Engineering, which was a core based on a kind of community class that we had here at Rutgers Newark called Problems in Art, and community artists and Rutgers students inspired by Willie's practice created their own single objects that were readapted and upcycled in different ways. And then of course Willie's 2 activations, which he'll talk about, but the 2 chandeliers that are one hanging in the Haynes building and then one also hanging inside of Express Newark.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, definitely eager to hear Willie speak about those in detail. For now, Willie, welcome. And just to start, what attracted you to become involved with Express Newark?
Express Newark has a 3D form lab, and that was my first attraction. Before I was an artist in resident, I came there to create games. Some of my sculptures have mutated into cartoons and games, but only in my mind. So I needed to work with someone who could print them out to make, the board structure, etc. And that's how I first started Express Newark. Also, the fact that it is there is attractive. If you're aware of it, you're attracted to it. And I became very aware of it, and I was attracted.
Definitely a wonderful opportunity and a terrific match for the 2 of you. What's been involved with your year as artist in residence?
Well, actually, before my residency began, maybe when it was still in the negotiation stage and creating a contract, the building owner asked me if I could make a chandelier for the I think it's called the grand hallway of the building. And in that same meeting between the building owners and developers and the Express Newark team, they decided that I should get the students involved because the water bottle chandeliers are pretty much community projects. They involve 3,000 bottles, but the work is repetitive, but also leisurely. So it's a good chance to bond and to sit and talk and to learn. So they actually had planned to assign students to assist me, but then the pandemic came and everything was kind of delayed. When it came back, I was assigned a class of students on Tuesdays and Thursdays to assist me. And that's been a great experience.
Well, you mentioned the chandeliers. Let's take a look at one of them and get a sense of bottles. because when you mention that, so viewers can really appreciate what you mean by bottles. Here we see the stunning chandelier, called Spirit Catcher.
Yes.
Would you please share what was involved in this, both the number of bottles and just the whole process? How'd you conceptualize this and what were you going for?
You are about to turn this into a one-person show, but I will say that the water bottle sculptures, chandeliers started in a dream for me. You know, the first water bottle piece I made was a chandelier that had a picture of Buddha in each bottle. And I actually saw it in a dream first. And then I pursued it. And that was probably maybe eight years ago. Since then, it's evolved design-wise, structure-wise. I started with a regular conical chandelier, you know, like shaped like a cone. Most of those chandeliers were 6 feet diameter by 6 feet long. This one is 8 feet diameter by 10 feet long. And this one is also collapsible, so it folds down into itself for easy transport and storage.
Wow, nice.
But, you know, the true origin of the idea to use bottles came when I had an exhibition with no production budget. And I wanted to make something large. And I was drinking water and thinking about it. And I start to squeeze the bottle. The bottles have so many lines and points in them where they can be crushed for the landfill that I was able to manipulate the bottle like origami and make a fish. So that, of course, gave me the confidence to make anything. And I've made a lot of things. I've made cars, I've made fish, I've made flowers, I've made birds, I've made chandeliers, I've made human figures in a giant scale like 30 feet tall.
Just a quick word with this close-up here of the assembly process that you go through.
Yes, well, this chandelier, this was my first time with this particular design for chandelier. But of course, I used 3,000 recycled plastic water bottles, all washed and clean, all pre-pandemic bottles, by the way. Each pair of bottles is threaded onto a plastic coated copper wire just to have some color. That plastic coating is red. And that is attached to a 12 gauge hanging wire. The hanging wire is also from the recycling industry. They use this, they call it baling wire, but it comes in 14 and 20 feet long. It's the same wire used for hanging drop ceilings, in which case it's only 6 feet long. I make the rings out of that and attach the copper wire to that. And then I add a PVC ring to the top of that to make it much more stable. Because once the circle gets to be more than 4 feet, it starts to move a bit. So this is the result of all that. And then each concentric circle is connected to the one above it and below it with a chain.
Fascinating. And the second one that you created, Luminless Lantern, what was involved with this and your overall objective?
Well, this one was actually close to my original design that I started many years ago. My original design involved, also 2,500 to 3,000 bottles, but they were not connected horizontally, only vertically, which made them harder to transport. So this one is a result of both of these are actually the result of trying to resolve the transporting problem. So this was the first one that I connected horizontally as well as vertically. And again, it's collapsible.
Nice. What's been some of the comments and reaction to the sculptures?
I get those, the regular words, oh, amazing, beautiful, wow, that kind of thing. Oh, people say, oh, I thought it was a crystal chandelier. Oh, is that really plastic? Are those just bottles? That kind of stuff.
Given the magnitude, how do you assemble that number of bottles? What are some of your sources?
Well, I started by going to my local YMCA. At the time, I was going there regularly to work out, and everybody's drinking water on a treadmill. So I asked the Y to save bottles for me. So once a week, I would go there and get a big black polyethylene bag full of bottles. And the largest polyethylene bags, most people think of as leaf bags, the largest one holds 250 bottles. So I started with that. But then I went to an apartment building. It's a twin building, two identical buildings, same owner, 21 floors, probably 12 units on each floor. And I spoke to the maintenance man there, and he said he'll save bottles for me. So every Sunday I would go there and he would give me 2 or 3, 4 or 5 bags of bottles.
Fabulous, fabulous.
Right.
I want to move on to the other endeavor you've been involved with, and this collaboration with community members, students, another faculty member, Perceptual Engineering. I mentioned it, you mentioned it in the introduction a bit. A few more words about it, and we're going to have some terrific examples as you're speaking.
Okay. Yes, I first came across the term perceptual engineering in a book about the advertising industry and how they create new ways of seeing for the public. And they call that perceptual engineering. And when I read that, I said, well, that's kind of what I do as a visual artist. So that awareness plus my interest in minimalism led to me to use a single object. It started out using a single object, just like the students here, take a single object, take it apart completely. It's almost like if you're an archaeologist and you go to a dig and you find a bunch of bones, and then you tell everybody that it's a dinosaur. So when you take these objects apart, these are your bones. You don't know what the result is. You play with them until something happens. They're like having a jigsaw puzzle with no picture on the box. You have all the pieces and you want to use them all. And that's what I asked the students to do. It's showing that everything can be made from anything and anything can be made from everything. This is kind of like the primary approach to what I call perceptual engineering, because it doesn't involve multiplication. Like the chandeliers involve multiplication. This is just dismantling and reassembling. And that skill involves letting go of what you know, because sometimes what you know is limiting. So if you only can see, like this student, this was a flashlight. If he only saw the globe of the light as a globe of a light, he would never visualize it as a foot or a stand. And there are tools or ways to see things differently. So I spoke with them about that. And one of the most primary ways to see objects differently is to see them in different scale. You can have, I remember this student had a light switch and all he saw was a light switch. And I said, no, man, that's a car. It's just real small. Look at it closely. That opened up his seeing and allowed him to see every part of the flashlight differently.
Given the sort of out-of-the-box nature of this type of assignment, how do students first take to it or approach it, since it's completely different than other assignments I think they've been given before?
Yes, they were a little timid about it, but I am good at helping people to let go of their inhibitions and just to see beyond the obvious. So it took 2 or 3 classes for them to really loosen up and see it. One student, in fact, the first challenge was to understand what I meant when I say, bring in a single object that we can take apart. Some of them didn't quite understand that. And they brought things like Pez dispensers and things that didn't have a lot of parts to it, So we actually had a reboot and it has to start twice in order to get objects that we could really work with. But this approach is also related to just not throwing anything away, and everything has value. When I do this work myself, I'm always interested in compressing time so that the object that is resulted looks like it's from the past, the present, and the future. And that starts with the mind state. It starts with being relaxed and open enough to let whatever you have in you or whatever is coming into you flow and combine to create something in the present. Like this piece here was interesting because this student, he brought a single object, but he brought a single experience. He brought a trumpet in a case.
Mm.
So when I said take the object apart, he also took the case apart. As a result, he had more parts to work with. What I do like is his result.
Nice, nice. I know you're involved with a number of other projects. Maybe in a minute or so, just give us a little sense, and then we'll have your website in the credits of some other work you're involved with in addition to Express Newark.
Yes, well, the next thing coming up, and it is connected to Express Newark, is that I am making water bottle chandeliers to hang in the median on Park Avenue in New York City.
Oh, fabulous.
So I'm blessed to have the help of 16 eager young community people and students to help me prepare the bottles to make these pieces. And we'll have it finished and installed by June 1st. I just recently completed an installation at Kansas City International Airport that is the second level of perceptual engineering. We only have one object. And in Kansas City, that one object is the saxophone, because Charlie Parker was born in Kansas City. He played the saxophone, his nickname was Bird. So I made 12 birds out of alto saxophones for the airport there.
That's brilliant and brilliant. And if people go online, they can begin to appreciate, not in person, what it's really like, but begin to appreciate where your mind took you and what it looks like. Truly something to see, as in a lot of your past and I know upcoming work. Thank you so much, Willie. Salamishah, in the minute or two we have left, maybe just highlighting, in addition to Willie's upcoming project in the city, other projects, events that Express Newark will be involved with and open to the public?
Yes, well, as I was mentioning, the film exhibition things we do in the dark, it's a two-part film exhibition. And so it's curated by Farah Rahman, who is of the wonderful Black Star Film Festival. She's a part of that lineage and that curatorial brilliance. And so she came here and she was our curator in residence at Express Newark. And so we will begin the second rotation of things we do in the dark at the beginning of May. So we're excited for that. And next year, our theme is Blues People. It's the 60th anniversary of Amiri Baraka's Blues People. And it's similar to how we thought of Aliveness, which is both very specific, but also a grand theme. And I think Blues People will lead to really wonderful activations and interpretations of what it means to be a blues person or blues people. And then also, of course, pulling on Newark's wonderful history of art and activism as embodied and practiced by Amiri Baraka, but also we're a jazz city, old school jazz city, as Willie mentioned with Sarah Vaughan. So there's a lot that's possible with Blues People, and we're looking forward to working that out and having artists come help us understand that more beautifully next year.
Fabulous, fabulous. Looking forward to all those collaborations, as well as following your work, your commentary in the New York Times. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. I want to thank both of you so much for taking the time to be here. Just an inspiring work you've been and will continue to be involved with, and wonderful opportunity to share it with us. So we're most grateful. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's always a wonder to hear Willie talk about his work. It's so amazing. So thank you both for having me as part of this conversation.
As an art critic, thank you for saying that.
I mean, you see stuff that it's like, I'm like, how does he even see that flash? Like how he helps other people see things that are possible, which is amazing.
No, that's a true gift too, is to take it beyond your work and inspire, in this case, students, community members to take that same approach, which is, we were saying, is so different than we approach everyday assignments or living. So that is a gift in itself. Well, thanks again. I also want to thank those of you watching for joining us, and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.